The first story is an update about a man in his 60s, dying of stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He caught his wife cheating with his business partner. The part 1, 2, 3, and 4 is in the description below. Update 5. I discovered the affair when I came home early to tell her about my diagnosis, confrontation and aftermath. Mike Tyson said, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." Yes, every plan does not go exactly as you vision. Mine is not exempt from this reality. I will take a moment to set the table of my plan for you. Jane and I have a weekly date night and we generally use the same restaurant. So much so we have a regular table. It is in the back, still public but away from the high energy near the bar. I decided that this would be the place I confront her. I planned to do it after the end of dessert. I got my lawyer and his wife's reservations at the same time. I gave our server the payment for both of our party's meals before we began. She has been our server for years. I had Carol on call to help Jane after I leave. My plan was to end the meal with a conversation about our relationship. I wanted to record it. Then I would confront her, tell her about how I know, my diagnosis, and the plan for what I want, and give her a letter asking her to not contact me or my family or come to the farm. I would have the letter witnessed. I would also leave her a briefcase full of evidence along with the divorce papers. Then get up and walk away. I expected her not to make a scene to protect her social status. I did record the conversation. She gushed about how great our relationship has been over the years. She talked about how great we are as a team. I asked her if I treat her right, have ever abused her, etc. She said of course not. Then I asked her why she cheated on me. She stated that she does not know what Carol told me but that it is she is wrong. I told her I had already known before Carol told me. At that point everything I think Jane had prepared to counter this conversation left and so did the color on her face. All she could do is ask, "What?" I then told her to let me get through this without interruption and she shook her head in agreement. She went from a confident and prideful woman to a woman with the deer in the headlights look. All she could do is nod. I then explained how I came home after my meeting with my doctor. I was rushing home to have the most difficult conversation with the one person I wanted to talk to. I explained that when I drove up, I saw his car. I then checked the cameras and saw they were in privacy mode. I decided then to go to the farm. I told her that I still had footage, and she almost interrupted to ask how, but I just put up my hand to remind her to let me finish. I told her about my diagnosis and plans not to fight the disease. I saw the heartbreak in her eyes, and I got angry. How can she feel sorrow for me? But I moved forward. I then signaled the waitress, and she went over and got my lawyer. They both came to our table. My lawyer handed me a briefcase and a folder with a letter. I told her that I don't want her to contact me or my family or come to the farm after I left tonight. I signed the letter and asked the server to witness it. The server and lawyer then watched me give the letter to Jane. I then dismissed them. I then concluded by giving the briefcase to Jane. I told her I know much more than she expects. I was totally destroyed. That there are divorce papers in there already signed by me, and she can sign them and start the divorce proceedings. I told her I don't expect to survive a contested divorce. That as long as I am alive, she can stay at the home in town. I will be at the farm. I will not see her after tonight. I don't want to hear any excuses. I have called Carol to help her home. In true fashion, Jane kept her composure in public. She just uttered a quick "but," I just reminded her I am leaving, and I am done. I went to the server and gave her a generous tip, found the owner, and apologized for not giving him a heads up. As I am leaving, I see my son at the door with Carol. Carol passes me with a quick smile then a concern in her eyes for Jane. My son grabs my truck, and his wife drives me to the farm. My son and his wife stayed with me Friday night. I finally got them to go home at midnight. I went to sleep with a great sense of relief, but with a renewed feeling of loss. But I was able to accomplish the task I needed to do. The family came to the farm on Saturday to make sure I was okay. I felt a bit coddled, but it was a good day until Carol came by in the afternoon. She said that Jane fell apart Friday night, but I guess contacted her AP on Saturday. After the conversation, Jane realized she was just being used by the AP and was really in a bad state. Carol made sure to tell me that Jane did not ask her to reach out to me. But she feels that if I could talk with Jane for a bit, then it could give Jane the strength to keep her out of my life. Carol knows how to frame her requests. I reluctantly agreed to a 2-hour discussion at the farm with Jane. I would have someone there for me and Jane could choose someone to be there for her. We will have a civil conversation. I will not accept being blamed, minimization, or blame shifting. The purpose of the meeting will be for her to get answers for how to move forward. That meeting happened this morning. Jane picked Carol and I chose my daughter. I wanted it to be as comfortable for Jane just so we don't have to repeat this again. I entered the meeting with a steadfast direction and goal of having Jane out of my life. The meeting was as expected. Jane cried, apologized, and tried to minimize the affair. I was not having any of it. I laid out that she will have a place to leave until my death. Then the house decision will be on the trustees. I explained that she will not see anything from my estate or from the trust. But she has her 6-figure pension and her trust, so she will be just fine. I have to rant about something, she said. Why won't you fight for me or us? I almost lose my temper at her, but I just responded with, I just don't care about you or us anymore. That kinda destroyed her. Here I am going to express my anger. This is the mind of a selfish cheater. All they think about is themselves. That even after destroying someone, they expect to have enough value in that person's eyes to fight for. F that. I was not worth fighting for against her desires or greed. F her. Sorry for the rant. Jane gets the answers she asked for but in hindsight did not want them. I don't want another meeting. I feel continuing the meetings just distracts me from what I want to do. Carol and Jane leave, but Carol comes back a couple of hours later. She and I have a quick talk. Apparently, AP had received notice from the trustees that they are going to convert the loan into shares of his company. And since the trust will be the majority owner, they are asking for a full forensic audit. My daughter with the MBA is not wasting any time. Well, I guess when Jane went to him for comfort, she realized what I already expected. He was using her to see if she could buy the loan from me. There were offhanded comments in the recordings that I suspected he was up to something. Well, with the paperwork filed, AP knowing I sold the loan to the trust, and Jane no longer in my life, her usefulness to him is gone and he let her know. Apparently, Jane also confided in Carol that her trust is exhausted. She will only have the income from her pension. She saw life with AP to be more glamorous than with me. She truly thinks his net worth is more than mine. He drives nice cars, eats in fancy restaurants, flies us first class, while my husband played on his farm, drove an old truck, and we flew in economy class. That she was planning on divorcing me when he expressed his undying love and desire to marry her. It disgusts me that she is this greedy and shallow. I won't see it, but I expect my family will tell her how much I was worth after my death. I am so glad that her true colors were shown now so I could deal with her and spare my family from her. Then Carol did something that was totally unexpected and threw me off guard. She told me that since I am no longer encumbered if I need companionship to give her a call. I challenged her and asked why with my diagnosis, why would you or any woman want to spend time with me? There is nothing long-term. She responded that just because Jane is an ignorant SLT and did not know what she had, does not mean any divorcee or widow would not line up to spend what time I have left with me. That I am a hell of a man and any time with me would be cherished. And I would have quite a few lady callers lining up and she might as well be first in line. I asked her, but most won't know Jane and I are separated. She said Jane does not want the social groups to know, but that she and Sarah will make sure her story is out. I was polite and told her I would let her know. She smiled and gave me a kiss on the cheek. I thought about it after she left, but I am pretty sure I do not want that complication in my life right now. I have left quite a bit out, but that is the highlights. I am doing okay. It has been a roller coaster. I need a few days of peace and quiet. The social groups will know soon. Both the breakup of my marriage and also my diagnosis. I will now have an endless stream of people wishing me well. I knew I could not delay it forever, but I don't want to be treated differently. However, life is what it is. Time to start dinner and relax this evening. Again, thank you all for all of your support. I will try to go back and respond to all of your messages. They mean so much to me. TLDR, I confronted Jane and the aftermath. Reader comment, I was waiting for thin update all day. I'm so invested that I feel such a relief when you confronted Jane. My blood boiled when she asked why you won't fight for her in the relationship. Psycho. After everything she did. I'm glad that the AP played her and that everyone in the family knows. I also love that she wasted her trust. Nice. What a dummy. LOL, and Carol is a mess. I mean, she's not wrong. You sound like one hell of a guy, but damn Carol, give OP a day at least. Also, I love that she will let the social group know. I don't know if you will continue to update, but if you don't, I hope that the rest of your days are filled with peace and the love of your family. Original poster, thanks for the support. I have to admit, Carol took me by surprise. She said she wanted to be first in line. I guess she believes that fortune favors the bold. I am sure there will be more drama that I need to vent and gain support for. Thanks reader comment, thank you for sharing your story in appropriate detail. I am very sorry that you had to go through all of this and that you have some challenging times ahead. Do realize that your integrity is truly inspirational. Original poster, I gain strength where I can, and that includes from all of you. You all have and continue to help me. Thanks. Reader comment, I think Carol has admired you from afar, and to her credit, respected you in your marriage. She just has feelings for you and would not consider it a burden to be with you. I am my wife's caretaker. We will be married 38 years this May. She has MS. I have never felt it was a burden to care for her because I do care for her. You must be a hell of a guy to be so well thought of. I'm sure everyone who loves has been enriched by your legacy. Keep us updated. Original poster, you are one hell of a guy. My thoughts are with you and your wife. I think I would rather have my shortened time than your wife's road. I admire her strength. Story too confusing but great talk, I guess. Initially our talk started over the phone, but while at the house we talked more. Well, like always, more so me. We both let it out. She was definitely more restrained, but at least she said something for once. She says she's tired of the cycle. She brought up that she still resents me for hurts I caused her. I understand, but I acknowledged everything I've done to do right by her. Not to take away how I've hurt her, but that I've tried to evolve and do my best to show up for her as her partner and a father. Doesn't matter. And I addressed that. It's amazing how much I've been told I can't move forward when the truth is she didn't want to move forward. She also claims I've been moving the goalpost in recovery when I've been consistent the entire time. I showed her what I needed. She expressed that she goes to therapy. Which turned into how much things are my fault. I have criticized her, and when angry I said hurtful things. We both do. She just keeps saying I don't see this working and I feel nothing, no spark. I see you're trying, but I don't feel anything. I told her that I can't be new love she had with AP and that I've been trying to draw near to her, but it's always something in the way. With AP she had no responsibility except being deployed. She said, well, you're making it more than what it was. It wasn't great. I said, sure, but it's still more than what I've gotten from you. He got to be with you without kids and the mundane stress of life. You worked out together, had sex and laughed. I begged for that. She just kept going back to I don't want this. Then she said how the therapist said we're in a cycle. I said I know, I said all of this before we even saw her. She keeps going back to my criticism and then she says I love bomb her. I guess I do. We fight and I always have to fix it. She takes me expressing my needs as straight up criticism. Everything I say that goes against her is criticism, and that's how she won over the therapist. I told her how me speaking up or saying how I feel isn't an attack on her, and I keep trying new ways to get to her without her feeling that way, but there's always this high resistance avoidance. She admitted that. She then began to get triggered mad because I brought up the ways I failed her, hurt her, and ended the convo. To summarize, she felt she wanted to leave me after our son was born, and her staying was her being a people pleaser and ended up hurting me more. I'll take the honesty even though it hurt a lot. Not really new information. I left examining myself and apologizing over and over again. At best I got out of her is I know I hurt you, I'm sorry, but I don't want this. The saga continues. Reader comment, I'm sorry forsaken, but it just doesn't sound like there is any common ground to build reconciliation on. My wife also tried to tell me how bad our marriage was, and, in the end, it just sounded like a list of her insecurities. I was too young when we met, if I hadn't been a virgin but more silly experienced, if I hadn't been so extroverting and outgoing, and the ultimate, I was afraid of you because of the rows we were having. I couldn't help my age, and it didn't bother her at the time because I was so mature. I couldn't help being a virgin. Was I supposed to rein my personality in around other people? And as for the rows, well, those were mostly down to her lying about her affair and her refusal to stop seeing AP, who used all of the above as reasons to doubt me in his pursuit of her. When someone you love rationalizes their actions in this way, there is no argument you can make to convince them otherwise. I was fortunate that my wife was able to see at least part of the truth, but it took her to see AP for what he was before she could see me properly. I think your problem is your wife's therapist defending her position, and it may be that your wife will never see a way back. She certainly never will if she stays with the therapist she has. Original poster, at least she admitted she hasn't figured out her why. She said she needs to figure out why she gave up on us and turned to other men. I understand her resentment, but I know for a fact she's never dedicated herself to at least protecting her heart. Of course, I've only confirmed her feelings over and over again by lashing out or complaining. But I've tried over and over to explain. Which is manipulative to her. If I could do it again, I would have just kicked her out years ago, but I tried to make it work because I had been through that with my ex and I really wanted to be a family. I love her. I just did a bad job at showing her. The course I asked her to do would have helped with her why that tremendously, but she didn't do it. Reader comment: it sounds like she is giving any reason and you keep allowing it by always being the one to fix it when you fight. I also think you should have a therapist that doesn't take sides. If you're not comfortable with the MC, find a new one. Original poster: she isn't our therapist anymore. Just hers. The therapist isn't necessarily wrong, it's just every session was about the things I did wrong. How I made her feel. Whenever I tried to speak on my POV, it would be glossed over. I know I criticize her, but it's not like we both don't. I don't know how to address issues without it being an issue. It's like I'm not supposed to have an opinion on anything. I've tried every approach. Even the ones the therapist suggested. It was always me trying to talk, and it was usually radio silence on her end. WP didn't yell at me much, but her abuse was in straight up ignoring me for days and weeks at a time. She wouldn't say she loved me, let alone hug me. I would talk about the stonewalling and abandonment, and the therapist would just bring it back to my criticism. I kept getting told how I can't move on from her affairs, yet the whole time it was her not even truly forgiving me for my past failures. I took that on so much I barely made time for myself over the past 4 years. I've done everything. Raising the kids, teaching them, doing housework, fixing things, building things. I tried to prove myself to just get something. Nothing. Just. I'm unhappy. I've told her everything, given her every resource to make things right on her end. Books, courses, she would read a book and take out the parts pertaining to the betrayed. She wouldn't do a course. She'd make me feel bad for questioning her. Saying she feels trapped. She felt trapped because she was never really in it. Always 1 foot out the door. It was her who asked me to move into the house. Our conflict always coincided with things she wanted to do versus my opinion.